just confirm me once. Am I clearly audible? Just write yes in the chat box. Okay, thank you, Abhishek. So guys, this is the fifth day of our Android Jetpack Compose Camp, and those of you who were present yesterday, we have already started our project. It has been uploaded in GitHub. If you check the chat box, Shagil has pasted the GitHub repo link. You can just clone it. Yesterday, Shagil did show how to clone a repo. If you don't know, Shagil, just we can have a quick recap of last day and we will begin our today's work. Right, Shagil?
Yes, sure. We'll do that.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So, guys, just share the link quickly. And Shagil, I think we are good to go. You can start now. We're
Yeah.
already up to 40 participants, and others will join shortly.
Yeah, hopefully we'll do. Hi everyone. I'll just first of all share my screen and show you the GitHub repo. I've already shared the link to it in the chat box. Is the link visible to everyone? Like, are you able to access it?
I'll just
This,
repost it for people who join late.
yeah.
There you go. I think everyone can access it now.
Okay, thanks, Rama. So as you can see that this repo contains all the progress that we did formally in the last session. I'll just give a quick recap of what we did in the last session, and then from there. So first of all, we introduced you to the API that we are using in our application that you can find in the news.api.org. A link to that was shared yesterday. I'll share it again in the group chat. And here it is. So I showed you how to get, first of all, login over here and then get your API key. And down here, you'll find various API endpoints. I talked about what were API endpoints and what is this get method of an API. So it basically means that this kind of an API will return something, will respond to some of our changes. Is the screen clearly visible or shall I zoom in? Any respond?
I think it's visible. Others, please confirm in the chat box once.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's visible.
So after that, we were got started with the second API. This one, the top business headlines. Yes, you could use anyone in your project. You could use anyone. In fact, I would urge you to use a different API, and then that will help you to learn more about it, about JSON parsing. Okay, so talking of API, yes, is anybody asking anything? Okay, sure. Yeah, so getting back to the flow, I talked about the API endpoint. So basically an API endpoint is the URL from where we can access the data of that API. We can call that API. Fine. So here, this is the base URL at https://newsapi.org/v2 and another /. So this is the base URL. After that, we pasted the kind of news that we want. So in our case, we were going forward with top headlines. So this thing is included in the endpoint. After that, the top headline returns many things. Fine. So we filtered those things, and our country name was US. So we wanted to get the top headlines of US, not of any other country. Apart from that, just like we use filters while shopping in the Amazon application, that the price should be within 1,000 to 2,000. The brand should be our specified ones only. So similarly, we can also use filtering in the data returned by an API. So here we did the same. We chose the country to be only US, category to be business, and then the important thing, that is the API key, which is unique for everyone. So I'm showing my API key, but it's recommended that you use your own API because this entire thing is free. Fine. And when we hit this API, in fact, I showed you in the browser. So if we hit this URL, then the response returned by the API would be in the form of a JSON object notation. JavaScript object notation, the abbreviation of which is JSON. Fine. And I showed you what a JSON is. So JSON notation basically uses represents data in key value pairs. So we have one key, and corresponding to that we have a value. So like the status is a key, and separated by a colon is its value, which is a string of value OK. Then similarly, total results is also a key, and this integer corresponding to it is 69. Similarly, articles is actually not as simple as status and total results. Articles is basically JSON array. A JSON array is an array consisting of JSON objects. So this entire thing is one JSON object, and separated by this comma, small comma over here, are different JSON objects of the same format. Like every object will contain a source. Inside of the source, we have ID name, author, title, description, URL, URL to image, published at, and content. So that will be similar for all the JSONs. So we introduce you to this. Now this data will be returned by the API when we make our API call. And in order for our application to make use of that data, we created some models. Fine. So this was the news model, and as you can recall, that it has a variable for the key status. Means whatever value the key status will have, it will get stored in this variable. Total results will be an integer, that 69 which we saw will get stored in this variable. And articles is basically a list of articles, because as we saw, that article was a JSON array. So for each of the JSON objects of this JSON array, we created a separate data class to store all the keys in this in the corresponding variables. Fine. And then we also needed a source data class, because in the article data class, the source actually consisted of an ID and a name. So as you can see over here, so the source is basically a JSON object which consisted of an ID and a name. So there were two keys. So in order to represent that, we had to use a separate data class. So this was the thing till of the data class. Then after doing that, we made a service. Means basically when we are using retrofit, so this is the standard boilerplate code of calling an API using the retrofit library. So over there, our base URL, which we defined in the DI section over here. So the base URL was this one. So first of all, we create a retrofit client using this base URL. And as we know, this will return a JSON object. So we need to parse it. And I talked about JSON parsing. So basically that models which we have created, so the JSON object keys will get mapped into that model. So that thing is called parsing. So basically getting the values of each key, that is called JSON parsing. So we don't need to do it manually, because there is a library from Google, that is JSON Converter Factory, that automatically does that for us, creates a JSON object to an object form, and which we can use directly in our code. And we thus created this retrofit client. And now in this session, we are going to see that using this retrofit client that we have built, how will we make our network call from the repository layer, like make a network call and fetch all the data and keep it in the repository layer. And when our presentation layer will need those data, it will fetch it from the repository of the domain. So was this thing clear till here, everyone? Responses? So this was all we did in the last session. Okay, thank you. I need everybody to respond now, because you people have stayed here till the 5th day, and we are almost near creating our first project using industry principles. Okay, Chandan, Deepan. Okay, Vidhi is present today. We have Diptanil. Okay, okay, thanks. I think then we are good to go. How about it? First of all, I hope that all of you clone the repository so that we are on the same page. clone this repository and you'll get everything that we did. Everything that is in my code, it will match with your codes. All the images, one image that we used to just kind of display the kind of output we are expecting. Yeah, without wasting any further time, let's quickly jump to coding. So as I said, whenever our presentation layer will need the data, it will ask the repository of the domain layer, because as we said, in the main motive of a clean architecture is to separate the data layer from the presentation. So whenever presentation needs anything, it will ask the domain layer, and it will not care whether the data layer is there on. So for this, we will open the domain layer, and just like we created a model, three models, means DTO models for the data layer, we'll create a similar model, we'll create similar models for the domain layer, so that our presentation knows the kind of data that it should expect. Fine. So I'll just quickly go ahead and start with the model of the domain layer. So it will be similar to the one that we saw earlier. But right now, as I said, the data layer asks for everything, means all the things that are present in the JSON. But we don't need all this, because in our application, if you recall, we only need an image, we only need a title, a description, and that's it. We don't need all those things to kind of make our application more, what to say, lengthy. So that's not our motive. So what we need right now is a content, a description, a title, and a URL image. Fine. So we will get only those things from the data layer. So for that, I'll just click on the model package, create a new Kotlin class or file. This will be, as you have guessed, it's a data class, and I'm going to call it article, not article DT. It will be just article. And in that article, I think I should close all other tabs. In the article data class, what we need, as I said, we'll need a space for content, which will be of type string. And something which I need to discuss over here is that this will not be a nullable string. We will not put a question mark, because we know that if the API call is successful, then it will not return a nullable string. It will not return any invalid format string. So after that content, we need a title that will also be of type string. Then we need an URL to image, URL to image, that will be also of type string. And we need one more thing, that is the yeah, description. Yeah. But I missed something. No, I think that should be description. So val description, and that will also be of type string. So that is pretty much it for the model layer. Now in the repository layer, we will mimic the kind of network call that we are making in the data layer. So we will not create a class over here. We will create an interface. Fine. So go ahead, create a new Kotlin class of file. This time it will be an interface. And over here, the name will be same as that repository that we created in the data layer, only that this will not be the implementation. This is just the abstraction of the repository that we have created. So the name will be get news article repo, and it will have a function called the get news article, and it will return a list of articles to the calling function. So as you can see in this repository layer, we have get news article repository implementation. Here we will go ahead, create a new Kotlin class of file, and this will be an interface. So I will write get news article repository, create this new interface. Inside of this, we will declare a suspend function with the name of get news articles. So yeah, and it will return a list of articles. So get news article or rather articles, and this will return a list of article, not article DTO, because we're not using the data model, we'll be using the domain. So that's it. And we will not write any code. So anybody has any idea about what an interface is? In any object-oriented programming language, what is an interface? I'm waiting for your responses. If you don't know, you can write in the chat box. Okay, great. It is the middle line where the user and computer communicates. I think Krishna Agarwal has got it. This is used to describe the behavior of a class. Basically, this is a class. In fact, this is not a complete class. It is just an abstraction of a different class. Over here, this interface is to abstract, or rather to hide the main, this class that we are going to implement, this get news article repository implementation. It is just to hide this thing from the presentation, because the presentation layer can only interact with the domain layer. So we are hiding that actual implementation. That's why I've written implementation, because this is the actual implementation where we will write the code, where we will make the network call. But here we only name the function that will be used. So an interface is basically that. So is the concept of interface clear with everybody? Okay. How about the others? ये online class नहीं है, so you people can have fun over here. You can unmute yourself. You can ask questions. If you want to share something, a joke or something, then also you can share. I basically have no. Yeah, great. I'll repeat it. So I was discussing about an interface. What an interface actually is. So you can see that we in the data layer. In the data layer, we have created a class which we have not created yet. I just declared the class called get news article repository implementation. Now this is the repository, means the actual repository which will make the network. Fine, and get the data from the remote API. But the presentation layer, but this class is actually in the data layer. Fine, this class in the data layer. But in the presentation layer, we cannot allow the user to get access to the data layer. So this middleman we are creating, as Vidhi said, kind of. So this middleman we are creating called an interface of that, which is not the actual implementation, but this will help the presentation to get the data from the data layer through this interface, so that it directly does not make a call. Fine. Is that thing clear? Okay. I think then we are good to go. So since this function is just the signature of this function we have here, as is the case with all interfaces, we will now go ahead and implement this function in this class. But before that, what we have to do is we have to first extend this class to basically use the interface that we have already created. And in order to do that, it's very simple. We'll just put a colon after the implementation. We'll put a colon and we will use get news article repository, and you can say this thing. Now asks me to kind of implement the members. And what is the member that we have created over here? The member that we created in the interface was this get news articles. So we will implement it and click on OK. And here you can say this keyword override is come. So can anyone guess? I mean, this it will be a common sense. So can anyone guess what is the means the use of this override over here? Like why override is come? I'll just kind of split the screen so that you can see it. And those of you who are coding along with me can please don't need to. Yeah, so basically you can see that the function signature is exactly the same over here and over here. But over here it says that we are overriding a function. So why this override keyword is written over here? These are actually very important concepts, and many people don't teach this. So I thought to kind of get up with this concept so that you have a complete understanding of what all you have to learn. And in the next session, probably we'll discuss all the other things that you can do if you are really interested in Android. Then we'll discuss all the other things. So till now, can anybody guess? And I would ask you to kind of unmute yourself and answer anything that comes in. Like override means to it's like overwriting something, that something is already there and we are uh, will ignore some part of the function. No, it will not ignore some part of the function. It will actually, yeah, means you're getting close. Try again. Try again. Others also, I would request you to try. While I just take a sip of water. I'm not getting to hear any of your voices. Can someone please unmute and give it a try?
Guys, all of you can unmute yourself and talk. Okay, you can use the chat box, of course, but I think a verbal interaction is needed.
I'm not a teacher that I'm going to scold you for unmuting yourself or asking any questions. Okay, fine. So I'll tell you. Basically, we already have a function in this interface get news article repository with the same name and the same return data type. What we are doing here is we are implementing that thing. So whatever action was not defined over here, we are defining over here. So we are kind of overriding the functionality of this function over here. Means we are that suppose that function had some different use case. So we are redefining the use case. We are assigning something else. Means we are asking that function to do something else which we want. So whenever we want to use that pattern, use this override suspend function. One good example that will make this point clear is just go to your main activity dot Kotlin file. I'll just open it here. You go to the main activity dot Kotlin file. You can see that in the very first function, we have this override keyword. So the function of this override keyword is that in the Android framework, the use case of the on create function is already there. On create function is basically a lifecycle function. Means the first function that will be called when this activity gets created. We have discussed it in the very first session. So it already has some by default behavior written. Now what we want is we want this function to we want this activity rather to behave as we want it to behave when it is created. So we use this override function, and then we inherit everything from the superclass of this override function, means all the code that is already written, and we add our code to it, so that apart from what functionalities are already present with it, we also add our own desired functionalities. That's the use of the override keyword, and it's very common when we are using interfaces and then implementing it somewhere inside of a class. So finally, this is where we will make our first network call. So the code for the network call was already defined in the API service. So what we need an instance of this interface API service. So what we will do is we will tell Daggerhill to fetch that API service for us so that we don't have to manually instantiate that thing inside of our class. So I'll do the same thing which I've said. For that, we will use shift inject and we will import that constructor keyword, inject constructor, and over here what we need is actually an instance of the API service. So private val API service, and that will be of type API service. And we will extend it with this. Now, one more thing, as I discussed in the previous section, that we have this util package, which contains two classes that are basically used in all the code that we are writing. So you don't need to remember it. It's just for a safe API call, so that whenever the API call is not successful, our app does not crash. Fine, it does not show any untoward behavior. So we will extend the safe API request also over here. So I'll go ahead and do that safe API request, and it will be a constructor invocation. I'll just do it in the next line so that it's easy to read. I think that's cool for everything. And inside of this function, now what we will do is we will make our first network. Are you people excited that we are going to make your first network call right now in just 2-3 lines of? Can I see some energy in the chat? Are you people excited? Okay. How about the others? Okay. Okay, great. So now you're going to make your first network call over here with just a few lines of code. So let's get started. So yeah, let's go back to this API service. And we said that whenever we call this function get news article, it will return us a news DTO object. Fine. And what we will do is parse that JSON and get our desired data. So we will do the same thing, and that's why we have included this API service as a constructor parameter in the repository. So what we will do, we will have, now we need to store the response. Let's first make the API. So API service dot, you can see there is a function called get news article, and we will not pass any parameter to it because we have already passed it while we were declaring. So we will not pass, we will leave it blank. And this is the first network call that we are making now. This network call we need to store somewhere. So we will do val response is equal to val API service. Now, since it does not throw any exception, so we wrap it inside of a safe API request block so that any untoward behavior by it gets automatically handled inside of this block. And so that the network is always means the response that we have received is always non-null. Fine. What we will do is we will return the response after mapping it to the domain with sorry. So I think you need to you will need to wait for 2-3 more minutes. We forgot to create one more thing that is very important. This mapper. So as we said that in the model we have the data model as DTO, and the same kind we have in the domain layer. But in order to map this model with this model, we need a mapper. So we will go ahead and define a mapper function. So we'll create a Kotlin file this time and call it an article mapper. Fine. This will be a Kotlin file, and inside of it, we will write our function. And the use of this function will be to map the data models to the domain layer. Okay. Was I audible or was I audible for this 1 or 2 seconds? I think I received a call. Okay, so I'll repeat. I'll repeat what I was doing. Yeah, I'll just repeat. So what I said was we need to create a function. We need to create a basically a file, a Kotlin file called an article mapper that will map our data level models, this model that I'm talking about, this is the model, to the domain level model, which is over here. Fine. And this will be a function which maps the data level model to the domain level model. So we'll just go ahead and create that. So this will be of basically an extension function, and I don't want to go into the detail of what an extension function is. Basically, whenever we receive a list of article DTO object, this function will convert that DTO to the list article, because in DTO we have many more keys, and in the article we have only 4 keys, namely content, description, article, and title, and URL to image. So we will do that. So we create a function, and wherever it will find a list of article DTO, we can create a 2 domain model, or rather 2 article, we can call it article, so that the article DTO gets converted to article, and the return type of this function will be a list of articles. Sorry. The return type will be a list of articles. And now we will define the use of this function. So basically this will return a mapping. Okay, and here we have, you can see that we have this article DTO. So we will create our own variable, that is article DTO, and we'll do it like this so that it's clear to you. Now over here what we will return is an article, and the content of that article should be article DTO dot content. Fine, and it should be a non-null thing. It should never be equal to null, and whenever it is equal to null, it should return an empty string, not a null, because we did not expect any nullable string in the article. If you can recall, we just declare string without a question mark. So over here we will take care of that. So content, and if it is null, then what we will do is we will replace it with an empty string, so that we get an empty string but not a null object. I think that is pretty clear. So we do it like this. Then we have option for description. We get it from article DTO dot description, and it should be null. And then we have a scope for title. So article DTO dot title. And the last thing is the URL to image. We will do the same thing, dot URL to image. And yes, I think we have created our mapper function. Now without any further ado, we can make our network call. So we have already made our network call. Now we will have to map this response to a domain level model and return it to the calling function. So we will return response, and this response might return us a null. So we will null declare it null safe, and then pass it to the calling function. Fine. But till now, anybody has any questions? If you have any question, you can ask. Okay, okay. It means you people are following, right? Okay. Okay, are you people following? Vitani, you have any problem following it?
No, sir, no.
Okay. So then we can go ahead and return this API call. We have already made the API call. Now we will return the data to the calling function. So we will do it in a null safe manner. So response dot articles, and after everything, see I'm adding a question mark, and we will, as we have declared this function to article, and mark it null safe. And yeah, we can do that. So is this thing clear what we are doing? Basically, we are getting the response, and the response we will get in article DTO format. So we will convert that article DTO format to an article format and pass it on to the calling function. I think we are pretty much done with the network call. Now we have the data in our hands. Fine. Now what we will do is we will go ahead with the next steps of implementation. That is the presentation layer, where we will design our layout, and one by one we will make the network call from that layer and show the data, display the data. Fine. We will definitely save few things for tomorrow, so that because tomorrow is also a session. Acha, suppose there is an offline session tomorrow, then how many of you are willing to attend the session? It will be definitely from 4 o'clock. Is there any option of kind of creating a vote or something? Ahana, is there any option of voting in this Zoom?
No, in Zoom
Okay, fine. Then you people can just raise your
it's
hands.
not
How many of you
possible.
are
I
willing?
can just, I'll just share the, I'll give the link, and
Yeah,
yeah,
if
just
you
raise
can
your
do
hands if
that.
you're willing to join the offline session.
Yeah, it will be in the Gurukul campus.
Okay, so we have got few hands, we have got few answers in the chat box as well.
Please, everyone participate in this, because this is an important question. Based on this only, we will decide on the thing. Basically, we are planning to have an offline session. So how many of you are willing to be a part of the offline session? We will have Shantan Das Bhaiya, who's the previous app dev lead of GDSC, as one of our speakers. You people can discuss all your doubts with him also. Apart from, I'll be there. So,
Shagil,
yeah.
do one thing. We have our registration form responses, right? So I'll just mail all the participants in the registration form link about their preferences, and I'll attach the form there as well. So we'll get a good number by tonight, I guess.
Okay, then please do it. I think, yeah, offline would be better, so that I can see you people coding, and whenever you have a problem, I can go to your place and decode the thing in front of, and it will be a pretty good session. Okay, so Anna will share thing with you. I'll
Yeah, I'll
just,
share the form link. Yeah.
yeah. So
Everybody,
I'll
please
just,
fill it up, and it's not attendance form link. I'll just share the form link for the preferences, and you can share this form link with all your friends and just ask about the preferences. Okay, it's not the attendance form link.
yeah. So I think we're good to go. And
Shagil, you
this
can
is the,
continue. I'll share it shortly in the chat box.
yeah, yeah, sure. So now I will close all these things, and we will get down to creating our layout, a part of which we have already like created. Sorry, a part of which we had already created yesterday. So we will just continue with that. So as you can see in the main activity, I created a composable function of this article item. Can you people see it? Okay. So a few people are coming for online session. Okay, we'll share the form and you share your responses accordingly. because this is a Google event, and it will be better if we do it once, at least one session. That will be the last session, right? Okay. We will share the form and then only you can decide. Right now, concentrate over here. Okay, great. Concentrate over here. Can you see this composable function article item on the screen? Or you want me to code it again? Or you want me to code it again for those of you who were present yesterday? How many of you want me to code this thing again and explain you one by one what we did?
Yes, please code it again.
Okay, sure. So what we are doing here is now we will go to the presentation layer and create a new Kotlin class of file. This will be a file where we will uh, store our article item. Yes, that's how things should be done. Nothing more than one responsibility should not be done on a single screen. So we create a different file so that it's easier to find. And over here we will create a composable function. And this function will be called article item. Fine. This will take in something, and I will tell you what that thing is. Or rather, let's do it like that, because we are displaying the data kind of dynamically from an API. So over here, what we will expect is an object of type, or rather an item, or rather let's call this thing article of type article, right? Because this is the format in which we are getting the data from the domain layer after mapping it from the data layer. So we will create like this. Inside of here, what we need, first of all, we need a card. Right? So we will create a card. Now, in order to make this card look a little beautiful, what we will do is we will add a modifier to it, because modifiers are used to modify the default behavior of the objects, and give it a padding of, let's say, I think 10 dp should be good. You can like give the padding according to your choice. I think I should go with 5 dp. That should be good. So a padding of 5 dp so that it does not look attached to the screen in a dirty way. So here it is. Now the next thing that we need over here is the style, because we want the card to be a little stylish. So we will, okay, what's the problem? It's a strange thing. So we have style. Just a moment. I think there's something. So rounded corner shape, and this will be of 10 dp. Yeah. Okay, there seems to be some problem with the style. Okay, sorry. That's not actually a style. This is basically the shape that. That's right. So we have created the outer card. It will be of padding 5 pp, and the shape will be a rounded corner shape. In the corner will not be pointed. It will be round so that it looks nice. Inside of here, we will create a column composable, and here we will declare the size that we want each item to be. Right, inside of it we need an image and then the text. So we will just create a column over here, and I don't think I'm passing anything over here. Inside of here, the first thing that we will have is an image with a painter and content description. So image we will get actually from the kind of data layer already. So article, sorry, not article, painter resource, and in the ID we will pass the image. But how? We will actually use the image that is, remember image painter, we will use a different method that is available to us so that we convert the URL, because I think this should be clear to you. We are not getting the image. Fine. We are getting the URL to the image. Right. Everyone in the chat box, are we getting the image or the URL to the image by the API? The question is whether we are getting the image itself from the API data or only the URL we are getting. I'm opening this response in front of you. Yeah, we are getting the URL, right? Just
We are getting only the URL.
yeah, great. We are getting only the URL, and you can see this on your screen. This URL to image is just the URL to that image that we get, right? Can you see it? So we have only the URL at our disposal, not the image. So what we will do, we need to convert that URL into an image, because basically visit that website and convert that URL into an image. And for that, we don't have to visit that website. We will let our application do that for us. So Compose already do. We can use a glide library for that, but Compose is very powerful, so we don't need a glide library to convert the image into a URL. So what we will use here is a remember image painter method. So we will do remember image painter and data. And in the data, what we will do is we will convert the article dot URL image into its image equivalent. And then in the content description, we will have article dot description. Is that okay with everybody? Is this much okay with everybody? Okay, great. So now we will style our image. First of all, the image card. What will be the size of it? What will be the things, properties of our image? So I'll just put everything in a separate line. That it's readable. So we have this, and now what we need actually is the modifier. So the modifier will be equal to modifier dot height. So the height of our composable will have chosen to be 300 dp, and this will fill max width, so that it occupies the entire width of the parent container. And so that the image completely fits this thing, there are no white spaces. We will use a property of image that is called the content scale, and we will use the content scale dot crop. So content scale is equals to content scale dot crop. So this with this we are done with the image part. Now below the image we want to display some text. Fine. So in order to display text, what is the composable that we will be using? In order to display text, what is the composable that we'll be using? You have been using Jetpack Compose for like 5 days. At least I expect this one. What is the name of the composable? Is it image? Is it text? Is it box, column? What is the composable we will use? Reply fast, guys. Are you people following?
Yes, yes, we are following.
So tell me, what is the composable that we'll be using? So basically what we will be using is text composable, because that is the composable that's we use to display text on our compose like on our layout. So we will use this text, and in the text field we will have article dot title. Fine. Now we want to style it a little. So for that, we will use the modifier properties, and also we discussed about ellipsis. So I think I should have two text fields so that it looks nicer. So in the title, I think I will give the title, and yeah, I'll give the title with an max line limit, or rather text decoration. What was that property called? The name of the property is basically font weight and color of the font. Okay. So color of the font is the color. Now you people can choose your own colors over here. There are a lot of colors already available. I'll be going with the black one, and the font weight will be equal to font. Sorry, this one. Font weight dot bold. Fine. And max lines for this case should be equal to 1, and overflow should be replaced with an text overflow ellipsis. That is the part for text. Now right after this we will have another text which will be used to display this. Let me put an enter. So article dot description. The color of this text, I want it to be gray, or rather dark gray, and the font weight will be semi bold. Font weight, or rather, let's also put in the font size. So font size, is there something called size? No. Font size is actually a property, but otherwise font size should be equal to 16.sp, and yeah, now I think it's taken. So this should be of 16 sp, and this one should be of 12. So font size equals to 12 sp. Font weight should be font weight dot semi bold, and color, which is the font color, that should be equals to color. I think color I've already chosen. Yeah, color is already chosen, so we don't need to put that. We will talk about the max lines. For this will be 2, and the overflow should also be wrapped with the text overflow dot ellipsis. And we have talked about ellipsis, and so that it does not look attached to the ground, we will add a modifier over here, modifier dot height of 10 dp. So give it a bottom padding of 10 dp so that it is not attached completely to the bottom of the screen. And I think, yeah, we have created our item article. Means this is the item that will be displayed in our cycle. So was this thing clear till now? Style will be eclipse. Style will be eclipse. Now, what is that? Ellipsis. Vivan, what do you mean by that actually? You mean that overflow will be ellipsis, right? Vivan, are you listening to me? Okay, so is this thing up till here clear? Yes, sir, but the auto. Acha, acha, yeah, you meant to say ellipses. Okay, fine. Okay. So is this thing till here clear? Like what is the article that I've created? This is just one single article that we have created over here. And we can check it over here only using the design preview. Just split the screen. That we will need a preview. So I think we'll not do it since we are finish on time. After that, in the presentation layer itself, we will create a home screen. So we will create another Kotlin file on a home screen. It should be a Kotlin file, not a class. So this is the screen which will host all of our recycler views one by one. So till here, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and ask. Watching the chat box as well as I'm all ears to your. Please go ahead. Any questions still here? Any part of the entire course. If you don't have a question, that also you can write in the chat box. I'm basically monitoring it. Okay, no question. What about the others? Okay. Now I have a question for all of you. In the last to last session, Dia and Rohit talked about view models, right? So what exactly is a view model? I want anyone to answer that. What exactly is a view model? Because we are going to use the view model. So put in the chat a question in the chat box also. So what is a view model according to you? What do you think is a view model? You don't need to be very specific. Whatever comes to your mind is very welcome over here. So you can, but one thing that I would encourage is you people should give it a try. Yeah, good one. A kind of class that manages the data. Exactly. So this is actually the class. Yes. Go ahead.
Is it something which enables the crash?
No, no. View model is not for that. Yeah, it is basically when the UI needs data or needs to make some calculations or some kind of a data call or something. It does not do it in the presentation part. For that, we have a view model which fetches all the data from the domain layer and keeps it ready for the presentation. Basically, passes it inside of the presentation. Yes. So, Deepan Bashak, Deeptoni, and Rahul, you people are listening. Okay, so I think now we should go ahead, and before creating the home screen, we should create the view model for this. This will definitely be a Kotlin class file. So before discussing about the view model, I'll tell you what exactly we are planning to do inside of the view model. So in the view model, we already made, like in the data layer, we made a network call. Then we got those data from the data layer to the domain layer. Now from the domain layer, we will fetch the data and keep it inside of the view model. The view model actually, to be honest, it does not pass the data to the presentation, like to our UI. Rather, it creates observables, and the UI, our UI, observes those observables. Now, what are observables? It's basically a store of data which is open to everyone, not to everyone, means the UI for which the view model is created. And whenever this thing, any change in the data takes place, the layout gets to know that yes, this thing has changed, and it automatically changes this thing and shows the changed data, is the new data, to the user. It does not show the old data anymore. Fine. So in the view model, what we will do is we will kind of get the articles and we will initialize it and then keep it inside of our view model. And from the home state, we will create an observable that observes that article. It will be more clear if I just code it along with you quickly. But before that, we need another class. I mean, we could do it in the same thing also. But for better understanding, it's better that we create a new class. So I'll just copy paste it. Just a boilerplate code that is used. So in the presentation layer only, we will create a use case. Rather, in the util layer, we will create a new Kotlin class of file, and we are going to name it get news article use case. And that file will be created. I'll just replace it with the code that's already available. So we'll just go ahead and import all the missing things. And the name of this is repository. And from here, we will use the same thing, repository. That's the problem. Get news article repo dot get news articles, and I think that is done. Now we will go create. Now we are going to create a view model for it. Okay, someone is playing hide and seek. What is that? Oh, okay. Sorry for the background noise. Okay, sorry. I'm really sorry for the background noise. Okay, so we will we have created the use case over here. It's a boilerplate code that you can find on the internet. And now we will just create a new Kotlin class of file. That will be our view model. So we will name it home screen view model, and we will create a new class in the presentation here. So this is the home screen view model that we have created, and inside of it is actually we will write every code business logic inside of it. So yeah, without any further ado, we will just go ahead and write it. So first of all, we will extend it with a view model, Android lifecycle, and it will be a constructor invocation. But before that, is everything till here clear with everybody? Like what we are
Yes.
doing? So shall I go ahead and create the view model today itself, or shall we do
Yes,
this tomorrow?
please.
Okay, today only. Okay.
No, you can go ahead to only.
Okay, great. So that is what I will do right now. So the
In the meantime, guys, Shagil, sorry to interrupt. Just I'll share the attendance link in the
Yeah, sure, Ramana.
chat box as well. Guys, fill it up for
So we have created a use case till now, and in the use case, we will just get an instance of it here. We will not ourselves get the instance of it. We will enable Dagger Hill using this inject to get the instance of it, so that we don't have to worry about it. And inside of here is actually the code that we are going to write. So as I said, we will first of all declare articles as a mutable state object, so that whenever there is any change in it, it will get observed by our UI. Fine. So we will do that. We will create a val article. Let's call it article, and this will be mutable state of mutable state of homes. Okay. Basically, I think we need to rebuild our project for the timing, because we need a holder object that we need to pass inside of this here. So for that, I think just give me a second. Yeah, sorry. I need to create one more data class over here. Now, what is the use of that data class? Basically, to get tell our UI that yes, the data is getting loaded, the data is available, or any error has occurred. So for that, we will create a new state. It is a state object. It's terminology. We will use it in the util, created in the util section, or rather in the presentation section, because this state is not for the entire application. This is just for the home screen. So we will call it home screen state, and it will be a data class. Inside of the data class, we will have three values which are self. One will be val is loading, will be of type boolean. Then we will have val. This will be the article that we need, is the data. So we will call it the data. We can call it data, and one will be a string for error. So go ahead. The default value of this will be equal to false. Second option is data. It will be a list. Sorry, capital L, a list of article, and if it is null, then that should be replaced with null objects. Is null, and the error will be basic. Sorry, this one. Error will be a string, the default of which is fine. Or a better way of doing it, no, I think we should do it like this. So that would be good enough. Just one more thing. Yeah, we have null checked it. Yeah. So we are done with the home screen state. Now we will use this home screen state inside of. So we will use home screen state, a data object, and it is a state of already takes that. Yeah. Now, what we will do is we will go ahead and call the function to get the data from the repository. And that function will be used named get news article, and this will actually fetch each of the news article and pass it on to our article variable that we have created. And each time this thing is created, we will update the state of our home screen. Fine. So this variable home state that we declared, we will update that thing each time that things, and we will launch this inside of a view model scope, and we'll discuss about this. This is a little complicated thing. I get it. Okay. So we will do just like that. So get news article. This will return a list of not an array, a list of article, and inside of here we have a function get use article use case dot, and from this use case, for each of the items that we are getting, we have to send it to the UI. Like for each item, we will keep on inserting that thing inside of our articles variable that we have created. So this it is basically a list. So for this, we have one function called the on each, and inside of this on each block, you can see that we have a resource of list of articles. And this is similar to the one that is used in the network. So now we will create three states. One will be for checking whether it's loading, one will be for checking whether it's successful, and one will be for checking whether it's error. Now, when it is loading, we will set the loading to true. When we have got the data, we will set the data equals to the data that we have got. And when it is an error, we will show the error message. Fine. So we will do that thing only. So when this condition checks, when it is actually the variable that we have got over here, you can see it resource list article. Now, when this is equal to resource dot is or resource dot loading, or yeah, loading, if that is the case, then what we will do, we will show our UI that yes, something is getting loaded. Fine. It should be actually is. So what we will do is article dot state. Now a state has been attached to the article, so we will do article dot state or article dot value equals to the value. So article dot value equals to home screen state, and we will set is loading, which was initially declared to false as true. That's it. Now when this is equal to resource dot success, we will set it to home. Sorry, like this. If it is equal to success, then inside of this, we will set article dot value equal to home state, home screen state, and the data this time will be set
Is success is equal to true?
if success is equal to. This statement means that is resource dot success, means the resource that we are getting is actually in the success state, means we are actually getting the data from it.
Yes, yes.
Fine. This will be equal to it dot data. Fine. Now similarly, what will be the third one? Resource dot. What will be the third one? Any ideas? We have covered the loading, we have covered the success. What should be the third one?
Output.
The output we will get in the success part. Whatever is whatever if whatever. What if something gets wrong? Something
Error,
is not.
error.
So that error is the thing that's remaining.
Yes.
Here, article dot value equals to home screen state, and we will set the error message. Error equals to it dot message dot to string, and we will launch this thing inside of a function, and then we'll do it. So we will have to launch this entire thing. And one more thing I forgot to mention, that this should not return anything, because this is an observable. It does not return anything. Only thing is that we have to launch it inside of the view model scope. Yeah. So that is the only thing that we will do inside of this portion of the code. Dot launch in, and it will be view models that's already provided to us. So that is done for the home screen state part. And there is one more thing that's left right now. And I don't think I should move any further with this. So I'll just push the changes to GitHub so that you people can get and tomorrow, most probably in the offline session, we will continue the last few parts, means the final touches of our application. First of all, we will check if everything is correctly configured in the Git. Yes, it's done. So we will do, first of all, Git add all the changes to the staging area. Yeah, so all the changes have been staged. We'll just check it if everything is okay. Status. Yes, all the files have been
So
added to the
guys,
staging area. Minus M, and this is our second. Yes, Johanna?
no, sorry, you can.
So we will commit our changes. This will be a second commit, and I will push this. All of the changes have been pushed to this repository. I'll share my entire screen. So this is the repository. If you update it, you can see that these two files have been changed in the second commit. And this is the link to the repository where you will find all the codes and everything. So till here, I think the last part is left, and that will be covered tomorrow. And we will, with that, sign off this Compose Camp. So any questions till now from anybody?
Guys, make sure to fill up the two forms that is there in the chat box, one for attendance and one for the preferences. And most probably tomorrow we are having an offline session in the Gurukul campus. After 4, we will mail you all the details as well. So till now, just ask your friends to fill up the preference form as well.
Yeah, I'll just reshare the link to the preference form. You can start filling it, and we'll share the same form to everyone. So till here, any questions or any suggestions, any feedbacks, or anything that you want me to cover in the last session apart from what is there in the project? You can tell me now. Okay, good session. Thank you, Ishita. So anything that you want me to cover in tomorrow's session, especially any specific topic?
Because if anybody doesn't have any question, we can wrap up the session, right?
Yeah, we can wrap up this session.
Is there a course for web development? We will come to that. It's just the first session of GDSC. We just started our journey. So we started with app development. We will come to web development and all other domains as well. We will have blockchain, we will have IoT, we'll have everything. So you just have to stay with us. We will keep on informing you about everything that we have. So guys, all of you, thank you for joining today's session and hope to see you in person tomorrow. Thank you, everybody.
Yes, thank you, everyone. And I think with that, we can end today's session. Yeah, just one more thing. We did not take screenshots, Anna. So just hold on, guys.
Oh,
And
yes.
you're free to take like open up your videos so that we can take a screenshot for featuring on our social platforms. So kindly open up your videos, everyone. Okay. Okay, fine. I think a few people have opened it. Some are still opening. Okay, fine. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining.